Miroslav Kukliš was a Czech diver whose body was found underwater with a knife protruding from his chest. Was it homicide or suicide? Stay tuned till the end as we unravel the story in this video. Are you enjoying our cave diving stories and not subscribed yet? Make sure to subscribe for more exciting cave diving stories. On the 10th of September 2002, a group of divers and 2 dive instructors went on an adventure at Poganica Bay. Poganica Bay is located in the southern part of the island of Solta, in the Croatian Middle Adriatic. Poganica Bay has an underwater cave system with a funnel-shaped entrance that is about 30 feet in diameter. As you go deeper, you'll discover that the cave is wider than it looks at the entrance. When you dive beyond 49 feet, you'll see the point of connection between the 2 galleries, the Shallow and the Deep Gallery. The beauty of this underwater cave is that it has no underwater current. Poganica Bay is a popular diving site for many divers, and despite its reputation as a dangerous and deadly cave, many divers still find it appealing to enter. The cave is dangerous because of 2 things. One is that the inner part of the cave is covered with fine silt, which can lead to a reduction in visibility within the cave when disturbed. Even when using a high-power flashlight, it's really difficult to see your surroundings. In addition, the passages between the Shallow Gallery and the Deep Gallery are complex and confusing, making it extremely difficult to find the exit of the cave. The group of divers sailed out with the tourist boat Domino. This diving team consisted of both experienced and inexperienced divers. Miroslav Kukliš, a 31-year-old man from the Czech Republic, a cook by profession, and the subject of this story, is one of the most experienced divers among them. They were all on board at Poganica Bay preparing dinner. Meanwhile, Miroslav dove into the water and discovered the entrance to the cave, while others stayed on board to prepare their dinner. This team of divers came for this adventure because they'd heard about the cave inside Poganica Bay. Though they have no idea what it looks like, they were curious about the adventure. When Miroslav returned to the boat, he told his diving team that he had discovered the cave's entrance. So while they took their dinner, they deliberated on how to go about their dive that very night. But not all of them were interested in diving exploration, because they were not fully sure of where the entrance that Miroslav had seen led to. Some assumed it to be a shallow pit, while others felt it might have been an entrance to a cavern. They continued their deliberations until the end of their dinner, so after dinner it was already 9 p.m. The ship captain took a nap, and 4 of the divers on board went into the water. They paired themselves into 2. Each pair had a dive instructor and a less experienced diver. During the dive, Miroslav took a leisurely dive and was watching the course of action from a distance. Leisure diving is a diving activity in which the diver strikes a stunningly relaxed pose in midair while he jumps into the water body. These 2 teams that entered the water dove down into the cave, and not long after, they descended into a tunnel. After entering the tunnel, they discovered that it is a broad cave system, and they were not prepared to enter such a deep and complex cave at the moment, so they exited the cave and came to the surface. They resorted to spending a few minutes enjoying night diving while they watched fish and octopuses in the water. After this, they returned to the boat. On getting to the boat, their friends who were on board told them that Miroslav hadn't surfaced. It was already 10:30 p.m. and 2 hours after they got into the water. They assumed Miroslav had changed his dive plan without informing anyone about it. They thought maybe he decided to join them at the Deep Gallery without knowing they had left for shallow water, since they discovered the depth of the gallery was too deep. They waited a few more minutes for him to return. At 10:46 p.m., a dive instructor and another diver re-entered the water to search for Miroslav. The 2 divers entered the water with a flashlight and a safety line to descend into the cave and went as far as they could risk doing. They searched through the cave but couldn't find Miroslav. At this time, they were sure that his cylinder would run out any time soon, and he was still under the water. Out of fear for what might have happened to Miroslav, they decided to call the police. The police told them to relax and remain where they were, and that trained police divers would be sent to them the following morning. So they anchored the boat at Poganica Bay, above the entrance to the cave. It was a sleepless night for them because of their distress. By 8 a.m. the following morning, the police had divers arrive at the location to commence the search operation. 2 police divers descended into the water for the search operation. After about an hour and 30 minutes, one of the police divers returned to the surface. He was in great agony and had symptoms of decompression sickness because he made a rapid ascent to the surface from the cave. He was then rushed to the hospital. The second police diver that went for the search operation never returned to the surface. The following day, some other teams were called to the location to continue with the search for the missing diver and the police diver who couldn't emerge to the surface the previous day. This time around, the search team came more prepared than the first team. The team dove into the water to commence the search operation. They saw the body of the police diver, Bernard Magic, 27 years old, at a depth of 78 feet in the Shallow Gallary. It was as if he got lost and disoriented after letting go of his safety line. He had likely run out of oxygen and drowned. When the search team got to a depth of 177 feet, they saw the body of Miroslav in the Deep Galary. To their greatest surprise, there was a knife protruding from Miroslav's chest. They pulled out the knife while trying to remove his diving gear at the bottom of the cave, so they brought the bodies of the 2 divers to the surface. While investigating the knife protrusion in the chest of Miroslav, they assumed that he might have been murdered, and not that he got lost and drowned as they earlier thought. Due to this assumption, the suspicion of who had murdered Miroslav fell on his friends and fellow divers because they were on board together on the night of the incident. They were all subjected to a polygraph test. A polygraph test is a procedure used to measure and record many physiological indicators, such as blood pressure, pulse, respiration, skin, and conductivity of suspects, while they're answering the questions they're being asked. 2 of his friends had a strong reaction to the words knife and blood. This was considered strong evidence, so they were taken into custody. After this, they began the investigation. Miroslav's equipment was analyzed and found to be working properly, so equipment malfunction was ruled out as the cause of his death. When they checked his dive computer, it was functioning properly too. There was no evidence that the dive computer had been meddled with, and the data they found in it was used to analyze his last dive. From the data, they found that Miroslav dove straight down to a depth of 165 feet, which shows that he entered the Deep Galary. Miroslav began ascending not too long after he got into the Deep Galary, so they deduced that he might have lost his way to the exit. While he was seeking a way out, he mistakenly entered the Shallow Gallary. Maybe he was thinking that it was the exit. Some of the divers that were conversant with this cave system said that it is a likely possible mistake because the entrance to the Shallow Gallery looks like the exit, and the rescue policeman who went missing must have made a similar mistake after he left his safety line. For about 35 minutes, Miroslav was still searching for the exit and later got lost in the Deep Gallery again. Finding himself in the Deep Gallery, he stood still for about 5 minutes. Maybe he was using that time to relax, or he was taking advantage of the air pocket at the top of the cave. Supposedly, Miroslav could not control his buoyancy again, and he dropped down to the base of the gallery. They affirmed that he was stabbed when he got to the base of the gallery. By considering this sequence of actions that were discovered from the dive computer, the police figured out the likely ways the suspects could have murdered Miroslav. First, they assumed that Miroslav could have been stabbed while they were still in the boat and was now taken to Deep Galary for a cover-up. That couldn't happen because it would be impossible for the murderers to falsely order Miroslav's movement, which was seen on his dive computer. And they couldn't have still returned to the boat in time without serious decompression sickness. The second assumption stated that one of his diving buddies who first searched for him could have met him at the Deep Gallery and stabbed Miroslav with his knife. This couldn't be. The dive computer showed that he was already dead at the time his 2 diving buddies went to search for him. So the assumption that Miroslav was killed by his friends became less likely as they considered all these options. The timing and data collected from the dive computer don't show that Miroslav was murdered by anyone. The only option they could consider, after eliminating possible murder, was that Miroslav could have stabbed himself with his diving knife. But this option was being contemplated. So some military divers were consulted by the police, and they explained that they, as military divers, do everything possible to survive in any situation they find themselves in. Anyway, Miroslav was just a cook and not a military man. He only went diving because it was one of his hobbies. Perhaps being alone in the Deep Gallery and losing hope of being rescued at that late hour might have led him to take such a decision. He might not have wanted to face the pain of drowning, and the only option to escape the painful death and end his own life as fast as possible was to use his dive knife to stab himself. A dive knife is used by divers to cut lines in case of entanglements. After all these investigations, Miroslav's friends were released from custody without any further charges against them. They returned home without their friend Miroslav, with whom they had started the adventure. It was a sudden loss for them. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.